building. It's been a little minute, but I want to talk about some of the fights tonight, in addition to thinking about how Manny Pacquiao sort of following in the footsteps of Roberto Duran, some other boxers like Duran. So let me start it off by quoting a piece of scripture first. Scripture is, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. You know, the word is bond. People say word. They say it um, because from the word comes obviously everything. If you think about it, we use words for everything. You know, form of communication. It's the fundamental baseline. Even now, I'm using words to talk to you guys. People say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and that's true too. But fundamentally, the word is the thing that we use to communicate those pictures. So I thought I would share with you guys how you choose your words and what words you use is important because that not only expresses pictures that may be in your head or in your mind, but it also is something which can influence the pictures in other people's minds, not just of you, but of life in general. So be careful the words that you use. We want to go talk a little bit about Roberto Duran. So Roberto Duran, you know, on a certain platform, different boxing forums, they talked about the Four Kings, and they're like, who was from the best to the least, ranked the Four Kings. Most people will tell you the number one guy in the Four Kings was Sugar Ray Leonard because he beat everybody. The next guy in line would be Marvin Hagler because he beat most of the people. The only person he didn't beat was Sugar Ray Leonard. And then the next in the line is a toss up between Roberto Duran and Thomas Hearns. But because Thomas Hearns beat Roberto Duran, he gets a nod over Roberto Duran. So the least of the Four Kings is considered to be Roberto Duran. And that's because he got beat by everybody. The one sole win he had, though, was against Sugar Ray Leonard. Very first time they met. It's a close fight. He won the fight. I believe by unanimous decision, but by marginal scores. And pretty much that was the pinnacle of his career, sort of. He got beat by Sugar Ray Leonard in the rematch, and then in the next rematch, he got beat by Sugar Ray Leonard. He got beat by Thomas Hearns. Thomas Hearns put him to sleep. And Marvin Hagler, in a very competitive fight, he lost to him as well. So when it comes to the big guns and the big fights against the Four Kings, he had the lowest end of the totem pole. But to make up for that, he was a great fighter at the lower classes, right? So at lightweight, he was, in fact, I think he is the longest reigning lightweight champion with, I think, was 14 successful defenses, something like that. Excuse me. But the point is that Roberto Duran got beat by the major players, the top dogs. Of course, he had that little glimmer of light where he beat top dog in his prime, first encounter. But other than that, you know, he ain't got nothing. Like all the top dogs beat him, all the greats of his era, from welterweight to middleweight. But what Duran did to make up for that was he went on. He kept on fighting while all those other guys were retired. Hagler had left the game. You know, Sugar Ray Leonard had left the game. Thomas Hearns was still around. He was doing his thing. But while the big dogs had left the game, he was still fighting. Why? Because he wanted to make up for the losses against the top dogs. He wanted to etch his legacy into history. He didn't want to be remembered. Hey, shout out to Leroy Kong. What's up, my brother? He didn't want to be remembered as the guy that got beat by all the top dogs. So what did he do to make redeem his legacy? He kept on fighting, and he was able to beat Davey Moore, the guy that beat Wilfredo Benitez, who also beat him. Benitez also beat him. You know, all the top dogs was beating his ass. And he got one up on the guy that beat Wilfredo Benitez, Davey Moore. He was able to beat him. He kept on fighting, and he went up to middleweight, and he beat the guy that stopped Thomas Hearns, which was Iron Barkley. Very good boxer. Young, prime, in his prime, Iron Barkley. He beat him. And by doing so, he added to his legacy. To this day, some people even rank Duran above Sugar Ray Leonard, which is ridiculous when you think about it. But Floyd does that. Um, hold on one second. I'm cooking some food. I'm eating a little bit late. Hold on. Yeah, they rank him above Sugar Ray Leonard because of his accomplishment that he went all the way up to middleweight, fought a prime middleweight and beat him in a very competitive fight, by the way. But they hurt one another quite a lot. There was a lot of hurting going on in that fight, and that was his pinnacle accomplishment because I think he was 38 years old or 37 when he did it. Was in the latter end of his career, and to a much higher extent, Manny Pacquiao is doing the same thing. Manny Pacquiao got stopped by Juan Manuel Marquez. He's a dominant guy, um, you know. But then in 2012, he really had a really bad year in terms of successes in boxing. He lost to Timothy Bradley, and then he got knocked out by Juan Manuel Marquez. And that knockout was one that's a very memorable knockout that everybody's going to remember for a very long time. Just the way how the commentators said it and everything. He didn't want to go out being remembered as the guy that Marquez knocked out. He avenged his loss to Timothy Bradley, which I thought was very impressive. Then he went on to face Floyd Mayweather in the fight of the century. He lost that fight. I mean, completely lost it. Like he wasn't even in the game. Whitewashed. We could have it 10-12. You could have it 9-3. At least you could have it 8-4. He was there. Floyd blew him out. And it was so embarrassing that to this day, because people hate Floyd, they say it was the most boring fight ever. But it wasn't boring. It was that Floyd beat him and beat him comprehensively. Pacquiao was never in the fight. He had glimpses, you know, like he had round 4, Floyd would take it back. Round 5, he had round 6, Floyd took back that. And he had a little glimmer of hope in round 8, you know, when he caught Floyd, and Floyd took that round back. So he never was in the fight. Floyd comprehensively beat him. There was no doubt in anybody's mind, except for Pacquiao's diehard fans, mostly Filipinos, and people who wish Floyd bad. To this day, I see people trash talking. I went up in a forum, and I'm temporarily banned on Facebook right now because or something I didn't even do. I didn't do anything to be banned, but Facebook is behaving stupid. It's affecting my business, but nonetheless. And also on a forum, they were saying that Floyd ducked this fighter and he ducked that fighter, and I know where this is coming from. This is coming from Pacquiao fans generating these things, trying to do research. They're saying so many ridiculous things. It's funny hearing them say he used steroids. There's no evidence of that. Um, he used PEDs, some illegal IV thing, and then they conjured up when they couldn't get that to go. They conjured up that he ducked this fighter. Particularly, they talk about him ducking Margarito for some reason. And he ducked Paul Williams. Now I see they said he ducked Amir Khan. It's tremendously hilarious watching these guys lose their shit over Floyd. Floyd has been retired for now 6 years, if I'm not mistaken. Well, not 6 years, sorry, my bad. 4 years. Been inducted into the Boxing Hall of Fame. Your film is blurred. I cannot see your face. Yeah, bro, that's just the way how this phone is. This phone is doing that. So don't worry about it. It's the phone. It's the phone. It's had nothing to do with my connection, nothing. So don't worry about it. Yeah, that they say all these things about Florida. It's really funny to me because um, they say that you know he runs and he don't fight toe to toe and all these silly things. And I know for a fact I've seen people run in the ring. I've seen runners. I've seen people who they don't want to engage, and they're on their bicycle. I'm not talking about those guys. All right, Floyd fights a different way, and you, you do very well to pay mind to how he fights because you learn so much in the sport. But the point I'm making is it was so devastating the way how Floyd beat Pacquiao and mocked him in the 11th round, comprehensively, beat him mentally and physically, that Pacquiao had to do something to build back his legacy from that. So while Floyd was retired and people try to bash Floyd about, the exhibitions he's doing, Leroy Cohn says, R.I.P. to Marvin Hagler. Yeah, yeah, man. R.I.P. to the brother, man. While some people, try to bash Floyd's choices of opponents in exhibition fights, you know, and meanwhile, while I saw Oscar De La Hoya went down on Floyd facing Conor McGregor in a crossover fight, and now he's going to have a crossover fight with Vito Belmont. um, I look at these people and I know they're jealous. It's envy and stupidity. Okay, and it's really funny to see them try to compare Pacquiao to Floyd in terms of what Floyd's doing now in terms of keeping active and fighting in exhibitions. I don't see a problem with that. But they so hate Floyd, and particularly Pacquiao supporters. They so hate Floyd that they try to bash him at every turn and build up Pacquiao, which that doesn't make no sense. You know, why are you trying to put down a fighter? Listen, when you put down Floyd, you're putting down Pacquiao because what you're saying is Pacquiao faced a coward and he lost a coward. Pacquiao faced this, but if you put up Floyd, you actually elevate Pacquiao because you're saying Pacquiao faced he ain't got no fear. He faced the best fighter on the planet, Arg- arguably the greatest fighter ever, arguably the best ever. He took that guy on. So when you put down Floyd, you obviously put down Pacquiao because how could you lose to a coward? How could you lose to a guy who, picked and cherry picked his fights and, didn't face the best and faced journeymen. This is what they're saying about Floyd. You know, you look at Floyd's resume, you look at, I mean, you can't say that. You can never say that. He never fought nobody in their prime. This is the bullshit that they say. It makes no sense to me because was Jose Luis Castillo in his prime? Absolutely. Was Zab Judah? Was Diego Corrales? Was Marcus McDonough? Canelo Alvarez? Miguel Cotto? Right? These are just some of the guys that he faced in their primes. And we're talking about great boxers. We're not talking about average, everything. I mean, you look at the list of boxers that Floyd faced. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I'll always say it to this day. To me, Cotto gave Floyd his toughest fight. Miguel Cotto was a really smart boxer, and he mixed it up. You know, uh, Jesus Chavez. Jesus Chavez was in his prime when he faced Floyd. He had one defeat, I think, that was early in his career. He was a little beast. Jesus Chavez was a beast. He was knocking people out left, right, and center. Before he became world champion after Floyd twice. Like people don't understand this dude Floyd Mayweather is a bad boy. He's a bad boy, but that's not the point. Pacquiao followed in Duran's footsteps. He didn't want to be remembered as the guy that lost the fight of the century. He doesn't want to be remembered as the guy that got knocked out by Marquez in the final of their trilogy. So to redeem himself, to fight for legacy, he has a motivation to want to fight and keep on fighting. And so he faced youngster after youngster, new breed after new breed. Timothy Bradley beat his ass again, beat Jesse Vargas, and he stepped it up in levels. If you're paying attention, he stepped it up in levels. After Jesse Vargas, he took on Adrian Broner. Of course, he took on Lucas Matisse. Then he took on Adrian Broner. Then he took on Keith Thurman. And I gotta say, I was very impressed that he was what he was able to do with Keith Thurman. Even though I can argue that Keith Thurman won that fight, it's kind of hard to argue against the knockdown and then the blow in the 10th round that turned the fight. Like when you remember that fight, you remember the knockdown and you remember that 10th round when he hurt Keith Thurman. And you can't give Keith Thurman a fight where, yeah, he landed more of the punches. Yeah, points wise, he probably outpointed Pacquiao. But in terms of thudding punches and punches you remember, effective punches, Pacquiao was the more effective guy. Even though Keith Thurman beat him up as well, beat him up pretty bad. So I remember a lot of guys like Dante's Boxing Nation at Keith Sports TV saying for Pacquiao to redeem himself, he needed to face either Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford. And what did Pacquiao do? He went trying to make negotiations with Terrence Crawford. Didn't work out. So who was the next biggest, baddest guy on the block? Errol Spence. And so he made a negotiation with Errol Spence. It wasn't about Errol Spence's weakness. Pacquiao's trying to look for something, which is his speed. It was never that. And even though Errol Spence got in an accident, and you would think, okay, Errol Spence be a target, but he was trying to go after Terrence Crawford as well. Pacquiao was going after the biggest, baddest dude. He was like, you know what? I'm gonna take the biggest, baddest, youngest guy out there. I got experience on my side. I'm a quick guy. I'm a fast guy. If you don't stay alert, I'm gonna get you. I got Keith Thurman. I'm gonna go through this again one more time. You know, and we hear all the hype around him. And I'm backing Pacquiao. I want Pacquiao to win, but I'm gonna tell y'all this. I'm gonna try and cut it to y'all and tell y'all the truth. My mind, after reflecting on it and watching Spence training and watching Pacquiao train, Spence is not gonna let Pacquiao. He's not gonna let Pacquiao just do what he wanted to do in that ring. I'm gonna tell y'all just as it is. Okay, and Spence is going in for the kill. He wanted to end Pacquiao's career. He's saying you've been in boxing too long, brother. I'm gonna take you out of boxing. All you old fighters, man, you guys don't know when to quit. I'm gonna help you quit. I'm gonna help you end your career. Spence is very intentional on doing that. Whether he knocks out Pacquiao or not is irrelevant. He's looking to put a hurting on Pacquiao so Pacquiao don't come back into boxing. That is his objective. Like he said, he's looking to retire Pacquiao. I'm be straight with y'all. I'm gonna be straight with y'all. Spence ain't no fool. He saw what happened with Keith Thurman, and I'm backing Pacquiao because I like him, and he old. He's old like me, and that old dog gonna teach that young pup or that young lion some new tricks. He's definitely gonna show Errol Spence a couple of things. Errol Spence gonna learn a couple of things in this fight. But Errol Spence came back from a car accident, ladies and gentlemen, which he wasn't supposed to come back from so quickly. I'll tell you that this motherfucker is real determined. He's very, very determined to make a statement and use Pacquiao for it. He up for this fight like nobody's business. And not only that, there's nothing Pacquiao can do to deter Errol Spence. Nothing. He been in a car crash. Pacquiao can't throw no punch that Errol Spence never felt. He been thrown from a car, ladies and gentlemen. So Bud's the same thing. Bud been shut in his head. There's nothing you can do to deter these kinds of fighters. These kinds of fighters, they know they're on the earth for a reason, and it's Errol's time now. So I just want to let you guys know that it's still a 50-50 fight. Go either way, you know. And everybody's gonna give Pacquiao credit for facing the biggest, baddest guy out there, even if he don't succeed. You know, but this fight, man, is different to Duran versus Barkley. But this is the kind of fight that we're talking about. You know, Pacquiao can give it the biggest go he can ever give it. Now, when Pacquiao throw jabs at Floyd Mayweather, he's throwing jabs because he lost the fight of the century. When he says Errol Spence is a better fighter than Floyd, because he thinks Errol's gonna go toe to toe with him, which Errol will do that eventually. But what Pacquiao need to understand is, and Errol may just be, as time will show, a better fighter than Floyd. In time, we'll see. You know, boxing as a sport evolves, so that may be very true. We don't know. But what I do know is this: Errol is very serious about this fight and very intentional, and he's coming into this fight to do damage. You know, and there are limits to how far a fighter can go once they start to take some damage. So we're gonna see how uh, we're gonna see how this fight pans out. But I just putting that out there so that everybody know I'm covering all the bases on it. I wanted you guys to know the real reason why Pacquiao took this fight. He's taking it to make sure that his legacy kind of overshadows his failings. You know, he failed to get the fight of the century. One, and everybody thought he would. And then he failed also in the fourth fight with Marquez. Marquez put him to sleep. And that's something in his career that's always going to be there. So he needs something to overshadow that. And that's why he's taking these big fights. He also need, you know, I mean, he don't really need the money for his personal life or career, but maybe for his campaigns or whatever, he might need extra cash. But why not take the biggest, baddest guy out there, which will give you the biggest payday, obviously. The biggest fights out there, obviously, are against the best and the biggest, baddest guys out there. So it also stands to reason that he's going to get pretty pretty substantial payday out of this as well. You know. Yeah, man, Leroy. Good luck to Pacquiao, man. His name is a tremendous name in boxing. You know, it's a tremendous name in boxing. I like the guy, you know, and I mean, he got balls, man. He got balls. I know he's gonna give Errol some problems. I know he's gonna give Errol some problems. Pacquiao style is just something that you gotta look at it very carefully. You gotta be very careful, against him. You know, if you've done your homework, you should know certain things about him. But it's different being in the ring. How fast he is, how quick he is, his reaction time, and all that. You're gonna get once you get used to him, then you know what's up. You gotta keep your defense tight, and you gotta look at him good. Have a good look at him uh, before you actually engage him. And trust me, man, Errol knows about all this stuff I'm saying. So that's why when I think about it now, I remember not but a couple months ago or maybe a year ago, people was like, "Don't feed Pacquiao to Errol and Crawford." And I was saying to people, "Man, Pacquiao might be actually be able to beat Errol or Crawford. Crawford likes to engage as well, you know. But you got to fight smart with Pacquiao. So if you don't fight smart with Pacquiao, you're gonna get destroyed. Period. But Errol's a smart guy, and I realized that he's approaching this thing the right way. So I'm just letting y'all guys know, heads up. This looks like an Errol fight, and he gonna try his damnness to make a statement. And Pacquiao's taking some punches from Adrian Broner. That's a heavy hitter, and from Keith Thurman. So hopefully they're prepping him to deal with taking punches from Errol. Pacquiao's pretty strong, sturdy. You can hit him with a couple punches and he looked like he's unfazed. You know what I mean? Um, but sharp punches are different to just heavy punches. Okay, let me explain something to people because people don't understand. A puncher like Errol is a very very sharp puncher. Keith Thurman used to wing shots. He shoot shots straight too, but he wing shots. Errol don't wing shots. I mean, what I mean by that is Keith Thurman hook shots. He likes to arc and hook shots and stuff. That's where he gets his power from, torquing his body and hooking. Errol also talks his body, but in a very conventional way. And when Errol shoot a shot, he shoot it straight, or shoot his uppercuts or whatever. You know who else shoots real sharp like that? Shakur Stevenson and Jerome Ennis. Them two southpaws. Them boys are sharpshooters. They got lots of power, but they sharp with it. And Errol is very sharp with his power punches, and that's a big difference. Y'all guys gonna see that's a difference between Crawford and Errol as well. Crawford is not as sharp as Errol is. Errol is, you can tell, Errol has through massive amounts of repetition mastered that sharpness, and you need to have that kind of sharpness in boxing. You know, um, Crawford's more elastic, and because he's a switch hitter, his movements are more rubbery and almost independent sometimes of his lower body movement. So that's the trick with Crawford. But Errol, Errol's he's a different breed, man. He's really raised really really well. He's really sharp. He's really really good at what he does. You know, you can see the perfection they got in building his base and stability and his balance, his movement. So Arrow's a different. He's a different animal, man. He's a different animal, and y'all gonna see what I'm talking about. Come fight night. But for Pacquiao, he's got an uphill battle against Errol, but you know he looks really really good himself. He looks really really good himself. So I'm looking forward to the old man doing what he do. He gonna have to conserve his energy at certain points. He's gonna have to be calculated in how he decides to do counter attacks and launches attacks. And let's see if the old fox can outfox the young wolf. You know what I mean? He's gonna have to be tricky. He's gonna have to move on his feet a lot. But if Errol cut off them angles, man, he ain't gonna have points of entry. And if Errol disrupts him with the jab, and it comes back with the left, it could be a long night for Pacquiao. It could be, because if Errol decides to be first, he could take the initiative off of Pacquiao and all of that fanfare and all that shit. He could shut it down, you know, and make it a one-way street. It depends on how Pacquiao decides to draw Errol in. Because you make one wrong move, Pacquiao will exploit it. It don't matter which round it is. One wrong move, Pacquiao will exploit it. You know what I mean? And he's tough. He's sturdy for a little guy like that. He's very, very sturdy. You know. So, like I said before, it's an interesting fight. But I don't know, man. I think it's Errol's time. So I think Errol won't take it. But um, if Pacquiao take it, man, I'll be happy for him because what this does is kind of balances out his legacy. You know, it'll sort of take away from the fact that he lost the fight of the century to Floyd so convincingly. And the fact that he's pumping up Errol is better than Floyd and stuff. That would really do it for him. Might even get the Floyd rematch. Floyd might have to come out of retirement, haul his ass out of retirement, and try and make something happen. That's why I think Floyd's still staying active all the time. I think he's staying active all the time because he suspects he's going to have a rematch with Pacquiao at some point. And Pacquiao is so determined to not be denied and to make moves towards getting that rematch. He'll do whatever it takes to get it. A lot of people feel the rematch will be boring. I don't think it will be boring. Will it be as tactical as, say, for example, the first fight? No, it will not be as tactical because Floyd lost a ton of steps. But even though he's lost a ton of steps, he's so smart that I'm pretty sure he can compensate for that and make it possible so that he can still get a W in there because he knows what Pacquiao does. He understands Pacquiao pretty well. So yeah, but I think that this is the motivation Pacquiao has. He's facing his opponents because um, Manny Pacquiao is borrowing off of some of the Roberto Duran did. There's another fighter who did something like that. He lost a critical fight and went on to sort of try and undo that and do some great things. Excuse me. For their career. Um, I always remember, besides Mike Tyson losing to Buster Douglas, he went on to become world champion after that. He never really erased the Buster Douglas thing because he he but he still became world champion again, and he lost to Evander Holyfield. But I'm thinking about there's another fighter who was horribly, horribly knocked out. Sugar Ray Robinson. Sugar Ray Robinson went up light heavyweight, and he got beat up so bad he quit. His corner quit. He could barely get back to his corner. They said it was the heat, but truth be told, motherfucker was getting beat up to the body at Joey Maxson. Joey Maxson was putting his weight on him. And you're a bigger fighter, you put your weight down on a guy, and you work the body with every chance you get. You're gonna take some steam out of a guy that's much smaller than you. which is something Errol Spence should keep in mind when he gets in close on Pacquiao. Put his weight down and walk him to the ropes. But anyway, um, so Sugar Ray Robinson after that loss took 2 years off and he came back into boxing, got beat by Ralph Tiger Jones, and then went on a winning streak. Beat Bobo Olson. Then he went on to become a heavyweight champion of the world. Carmen Basilio beat his ass. He came back rematched. Carmen Basilio got the decision. Then Gene, how did it go? I'm trying to remember how it goes. Then was it Basilio beat him again? I don't know what it was. But Gene Fullmer anyway became world champion because he got beat again or somebody. I don't know who it was. And then he came back and he beat Gene Fullmer, stopped him, and Fullmer, I think, either beat him. I think they had a draw, and then Fullmer beat him again. Then he faced Paul Pender. He lost to him twice. But the point is, what makes Sugar Ray Robinson great is the fact that even after that loss he had, a couple losses he had, he came back and tried to equalize that problem. Never faced Joey Maxim again, but you know. And a lot of boxers try to do that. They try to redeem themselves. Oh, it's the fan going on. Yeah, a lot of boxers they try to redeem themselves. You know, after losing, they want to go out on a bad note. But that's what's driving Manny Pacquiao to to want to do this. You know, he's trying to equalize the playing field. He's trying to. He don't want to be remembered for losing the fight of the century. He don't want to be remembered for getting stopped by Marquez. You know what I mean? And so this is why he's doing these great things. Otherwise, he ain't got no incentive to go on. He just retired, just like Marquez retired right after he knocked out Pacquiao. Why? Because he's satisfied with his career, right? Floyd, he had nothing else to prove, so he just retired from boxing. Came back to face Conor McGregor in a money making fight, and he's been having fun since then. He's doing exhibitions and stuff. People trying to mock him, but everybody know, everybody know, he did everything he could possibly do in boxing. He didn't need to do anything extra, so he didn't bother. Pacquiao still got something he has to prove, something he has to do. So that's why he's still in boxing. It's really a no-brainer. But so it's really cool though what Pacquiao's doing. I never expected him to do something like that. Like older boxer decided to take on these young lions. I know he's been doing it for a while, but now he entering into the lions. Then these are the real dudes. These dudes, they're not gonna play around. They ain't gonna let this. They ain't gonna let an older guy beat them. And I'm telling you right now, Errol's not gonna let Pacquiao beat him. It's not happening. You know, he's going to find out. He's going to make Pacquiao know that he's old and he shouldn't be in the sport. He's gonna try and send that message to Pacquiao. At least he's gonna try. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be very interesting. You know, wear and tear in the body and all that. But again, Pacquiao, he just got to be cunning. He got to be smart in there. And I don't know if he can outsmart the younger guy, but he gotta give it a go. What works in his favor is his explosiveness and his speed. You know, but I ain't gonna say no more. I'm not gonna say no more. If I say more, I'll expose certain things. And I know Errol already knows these things, but and Floyd probably told him already. But I don't need to talk about it. I don't need to talk about it. I want to see what Pacquiao does, and there's a lot to this fight that meets the eye. You know what I mean? So we'll see what Pacquiao does in this fight and what Errol does in this fight. And I'm talking to you guys after the fight is done about some other nitty gritty details. Well, let me talk a little bit about the fights that actually happened tonight. So Santa Maria, he beat Devin Alexander. I think it's David Santa Maria is his name. Good fighter, man. Switch hitter and everything. Box both angles. Box his ass off. Really good fighter. Devin looked stiff as he usually does, and he was trying to walk him down, and just walking into every single trap that Santa Maria set for him. Santa Maria won that fight. Then Fox, he faced the guy from Venezuela. Guy from Venezuela was the favorite, and Fox, he was the last minute replacement. Fox gave him all kinds of problems, dropped him, and still lost the fight. I don't even understand it. The judges robbed Fox. They jobbed him, and it just wasn't right at all. All right. And then the other fight that happened was Louis Collazo versus a young undefeated fighter. Fights on the inside from Europe. And Collazo was taking a lot of punishment, but he was also dealing back some good, nice punishment. He was rolling some shots. He was catching some shots, flush-ish. But Colossus is a crafty veteran, and he was landing some really good shots on the young guy. The young guy realized the Colossus was going nowhere. They ended up clashing heads at the end of the fourth, unfortunately. So the fight was done. Ended up being a no contest, pretty much. It was kind of sad, um, but it was going good. So those are the fights. But the thing that I don't like, and I don't know why there's no real serious punishment to these judges, is these judges blatantly robbed. You can tell the corruption that happened there. Blatantly robbed Fox. They had the scorecard had 117, 110, which should have been what Fox had for the Venezuelan dude. I think what was the guy's name? I can't remember. And I was like, man, Fox basically outboxed this dude, dropped this dude, and he lost. He only got one round, 117, not one round. He got like what? I guess the round he dropped the guy in, which I think was the second round. I mean, them guys need to be fired, man. Them guys need to lose their work. You could tell that it was corrupt, and you knew somebody got paid, or they all got paid. But the A side, I don't care if you the A side. If you got your ass whooped, you got your ass whooped. Fox definitely beat him, hands down. That was just a robbery, straight up. That was just a robbery. And it was like the judges didn't care. Like this dude, he could have stopped the dude. They were going to give the fight to the Venezuelan guy somehow, some way. So I didn't like it. I didn't like it. Of course, if you want to keep the judges out of the equation, you have to stop the guys, just knock them out, so you don't get robbed. But it was terrible, man. I looked at it and I was like, man, are you serious? Even the people who were reporting on the network was Joe Goosen, um, Lennox Lewis, and what's the dude's name? The guy who doesn't know shit about boxing, but for some reason he got it right this time. And Marcus Vegas was the guy that was scoring. I don't even understand how. I really am baffled. Like honestly, I really am surprised they even scored it that way. So it is what it is. But that was a robbery. That's what you call a robbery. Okay, that's a straight up robbery. Anyway, that's what you need for what I got for you guys. And don't get it twisted. Manny Pacquiao is a great, great, great fighter. He's an all-time great. So is Floyd Mayweather. Just to throw him in there. They're all-time greats. First ballot Hall of Famers. You know. But I just wanted to give you guys a little insight into why Pacquiao's doing what he's doing. And like Leroy Kong said, I wish him all the best. Smash that like button. Don't forget to smash the like button if you like what this video is saying. The truth of the matter. On what you need. If you're watching my channel, if you like what you're seeing, don't forget you can subscribe, share, comment. You can also donate by Western Union or MoneyGram. That's how I get my line. I'm gonna catch you guys later. Leroy Kong in the building, man. Hey, you do some great videos too, brother. I like your positivity. I like that you. He does movies, so he's like with the DC stuff. He's a DC guy, and also uh, he also likes bodybuilding. So women, muscle women, women muscle, women with a hard body or you know, toned up physique. He likes that. So you go check out his channel, and you'll see those kinds of things. Leroy Kong is his channel. You guys check it out. Subscribe to him, man. Show him some love. I'm gonna catch you guys later. I am what you need. Peace.